I'd like to give a huge thank you to our sponsors, Candela's Barking Beauties and B Graphics, as well as our gracious hosts here in Monessen, His Place Coffee Community, and more.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Candelor, owner of Candela's Barking Beauties, where our salon is your salon. We have 5 convenient locations, no appointment needed. All breeds welcome. Any size dog. We are open Tuesday through Saturday from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. We have 5 convenient locations: Elizabeth, White Oak, Finleyville, Monongahela, and Irwin. Love to have you visit us.
Welcome to the James Protin podcast. I'm your host, James Protin. This is our episode number 1, our launch and our kickoff. And our guest today is MJ Callaway. And MJ is a keynote speaker and award-winning author of 7 books. She works with organizations that want to improve workplace communication, create resilient teams, increase sales performance, and accelerate bottom-line results. But there's more to MJ than just that. She's had some unexpected twists and turns along her entrepreneurial journey, like we all have. And since 2016, MJ has faced cancer not once, but twice. Her first diagnosis came with a 20% chance of survival, and a lot of people would have thrown in the towel at that point, but not this young lady right here. MJ is not just a survivor, she's a warrior. And she joins us today to share her story of overcoming adversity to reach the pinnacle of her profession. And we're blessed to have her. And MJ, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh my goodness, Jamie, I am so thrilled to be here. Thrilled to have this conversation with you. Thrilled to be in this place that is blessing so many people. And for your listeners, we are in a restored firehouse. I mean, just absolutely fabulous. So you can tell a little bit more about that if you want to direct people here.
And we will do that, absolutely. And we have been looking for the right place. When you're starting something like this and you've never done it before, you're looking for perfect, right? And we found Nick Altland Productions, who's going to be producing and editing and directing all of our podcasts, and really, in the process of trying to find that perfect, which doesn't exist, right, we've stumbled upon a place that is perfect for us, right? And that's His Place Coffee and Community here in Monessen, Pennsylvania. It's the old city of Monessen downtown fire station that has been brought back to life, restored by the Christian Center Church here in Ross Draver Township. So they're graciously hosting us and allowing us to use their facility for our podcast purposes. So I'm glad you came down here and found the place, because it's a great place, and we're happy to share it with everybody.
It is, and I love coffee, and I love to support independent coffee owners, coffee organizations. So for me, because I'm a small business, I want to support other small businesses, whether locally or if I'm traveling. I try to find a local restaurant or local coffee shop, anything that I can do to support another small business.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I'm very intrigued. We met probably maybe 5 years ago now, maybe even a little more. It's been, you were a speaker. That's when I was still president of the Regional Chamber of Commerce, and you were speaking at Mon Valley Hospital. Yes. And that's where we were introduced. And we hit it off, and your story has just resonated with me. And we've been able to grow our friendship and continue moving forward. And it's just been exciting to watch you, and especially with your new endeavor with Bounce Up. And I want to really get into that. But here's a copy of MJ's latest book, Bounce Up. And it's compelling reading, and it's a wonderful story. And if you are, please go out and try to get a copy of that and take a look at it. So how did you come about Bounce Up? Where does that originate?
Oh my goodness. So the book itself is not only has my story, but it also both personal and professional, because Jamie, whatever happens to us personally impacts us professionally and vice versa. It also has the story of 8 other entrepreneurs, other business owners. There's also a football coach or a prior football coach in there too. and sharing a story of how people hit rock bottom. They really hit rock bottom. And every single one of them, and I'll include myself in there, we bounced up. And how Bounce Up came about was I was at a conference, part of NSA. It was the NSA Influence Conference. It's their largest conference of the year.
And NSA is the National Speakers Association.
Yes, thank you for making sure, because I tend to go into that NSA and not everybody knows what it is. So thank you. The reason why I was so determined to go to that conference was the year prior, and that was in 2017. In 2016, my goal was to become a professional NSA member.
Okay.
And there was guidelines, criteria that I had to hit in order to reach that, and it was an approved only part of the membership. So I hit that in October, beginning of October of 2016, and then 2 weeks later I was diagnosed with the first breast cancer.
Okay.
And the prognosis was 20% chance of surviving over 5 years if chemo didn't work, and chemo had a 50 to 60% chance of working.
Wow.
So the odds were against me, but faith, God, prayer groups, support teams, which I call my power team,
Right.
and belief, faith. I had faith not only in my higher power is God. It can be the universe, it can be,
Right.
for different people, it's different things.
Sure.
And also faith in myself that I could do the right things to conquer it.
Right.
Faith in what my medical team offered me. So I made a decision that I was going to influence in 2017. And I share that with the physicians, with my surgeons, and they're saying to me, there's no way. You have 6 months of intense chemo. And the PA said to me at one time, she said, well, we don't give this cocktail to many people because they wouldn't make it.
Wow.
Yes.
That's knowing you the way I do, that's powerful. And see, that just caught me off guard. That's amazing.
So imagine sitting there and hearing that.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so I'm making it. I am going to make it. So then I had to go through, and I called chemo magic wand. I flipped all of those negative words.
Right.
And I had to have surgery, and then I had to have another 8 months of magic wand plus radiation that I call buzz.
Okay,
going
sure.
off of Buzz Lightyear, because when you think
Sure.
about Buzz,
Right.
Buzz makes you laugh.
Right.
And the machine was big, and Buzz is big.
Yeah,
so.
right.
And I was determined I was going. And the one surgeon said, because of what we're giving you, you will probably land in the hospital. I was blessed. I did not. So when I finished radiation on July 5th, and on July 6th, I got on a plane to Orlando, Florida to go to the conference. And this is a long way to get around to Bounce Up. I was part of a coaching group at the time.
Okay.
And we met the day before the conference started. And the business coach, it was a business group, the business coach went around, was sharing what she thought of everyone. She was given descriptive words. And when she came to me, and everybody in the group knew my story, they knew what I was going through. And I was determined to keep business going. And she said, MJ, I don't even have a word for you. She said, I want to say bounce back, but that isn't strong enough.
Right.
And for me, it was like, wow, it was an eye-opener of the way others, thought of me. Mm-hmm. And then it also was, darn, I don't even have a word to use. So I went to the first session, and I had another speaker friend with me, and the gentleman who was given the session at the time, he was talking about websites, and he was talking about bounce rates, and he said something, I don't know what he said, and my first thought was, bounce up. I bounce up.
Right.
I don't bounce back, I bounce up.
There you
And
go.
bounce up stuck.
Okay.
Because I thought, I hit rock bottom.
Sure. Sure.
You've shared.
I talk about that a lot, right?
You've hit rock bottom.
Right.
And we have a choice. We can
Yep.
bounce back to where we were,
Right.
or we could bounce up.
Exactly.
So, and it is taking that analogy, and I use, can I share?
Absolutely.
So I use an analogy of a punching bag. Oh, I should have brought my punching bag with me. So think about a punching bag. When you hit that punching bag, it bounces right back to where it is. Think about the punching bags we had as kids. They had water in the bottom or sand in,
Yeah. They go down,
and
come
air.
right back up.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So the punching bag never moves, it never grows. When we are talking about bounce back, we're not growing. We're going right back to
where you were.
Yes. Now think about a basketball player. That is my favorite sport.
Mine too. That's another reason why we're good.
Yes.
That's another one.
So when we think about a basketball player, now think about the person who rebounds. He's in the paint there, and he's going up for the rebound, and he gets that ball. He bounces up higher than everybody else on the court,
Right.
and he has the ball. Now he controls the ball. He controls the floor,
Right.
the next play, and possibly the game.
Yep.
When we think about bounce up, it's we take control.
Right.
Whereas bounce back, we give the control to whatever that adversity or whatever that setback happened to be. Going through the journey, I call it a journey, going through that journey, I could have been bitter and mad and people do.
And that's the easy way. That's the easy path, is to get angry and in the woe is me
It is.
mindset that creeps in.
You're right. And stay there. What happens when we get there, we stay there
You get stuck.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. And my choice was it didn't matter, well, it mattered how many days I had on this earth, but I was going to make every day count. And that is part of Bounce Up, is making every day count.
And that's something that everybody can take away from this, and
Absolutely.
your message would resonate obviously with people who have received that diagnosis. And those are words that you never ever want to hear. They terrify even the strongest, most powerful and secure person. Those words would just knock you off your feet, and
Definitely.
But what you just described, and I love the basketball analogy because I'm an old coach myself, but it applies to everybody.
Yes.
It really does, and it doesn't matter what put you there. Okay, you want to bounce up, not back, because you bounce back, then there's what comes next, right? And you run the danger of being stuck there.
You do.
Right, but bouncing up, that there's no limit. Right, so I love that. It's limitless, right? It's not putting a cap on anything.
Yes.
So that's my takeaway from it. It's just wonderful.
And you captured it. You
Right.
captured it brilliantly, because that's what it is. When in the other thought with adversity or a setback or a challenge, it gives us the opportunity to be better than what we
Right.
were before.
Right.
Because without that, sometimes we get compliant, we're comfortable, so we don't make a change. And then when adversity hits or a challenge, think about COVID. We've all been through COVID.
Yep.
Think about the restaurants that thrived during COVID.
Exactly.
They came up with ways to be able to serve people, from
exactly
takeout
right.
to curbside to those
Right.
fun little those little tents.
Yeah,
huts.
exactly.
They put heaters in.
They
there.
overcame. They were faced with
did.
adversity and found a way, thinking outside the box, to overcome that. And I think that's the definition of being an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
You're going to face adversity. You're going to have to overcome. So it's if you can't think limitlessly, if you put boundaries on yourself, you're not going to be able to do that.
No.
Right? And that's bouncing up removes those boundaries in my mind. My heart tells me that, right?
Right. And sometimes someone can't do it alone. And I will say, I didn't take this path alone.
Right.
I had what I call my power team.
Okay.
I had a power team with me along the way. And everybody can build their power team. And I have resources on my website. If they go to my website and mjcallaway.com/free downloads, that's
Okay.
what it is. And they will see there's a worksheet there called Power Team, and it will walk them through how to create it.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
and I do talk about that in the book, and I do have a very inexpensive digital course to walk them through it.
Okay.
But the Power Team, you probably have heard Jim Rohn's popular quote, "You are the average of the 5 people
Yes.
you spend the most
That's
time
exactly
with."
right. Yep.
The thing is, Jim Rohn did us wrong. He didn't share, okay, who don't we need in our life?
Right.
And
That's
who
exactly
do
right.
we need in our life?
That is exactly right.
So and someone had asked me once, well, how do you create a power team? And I thought about the different steps that I had taken to create my power team. And it wasn't that one day I woke up and I had the 5 different people I needed.
Right.
It
Right.
was, we grow a little at a time.
Sure. Absolutely.
So with it, my first one was an accountability partner. And that accountability partner is someone who keeps you on track.
Right.
And the one piece with the accountability partner is having someone who will help you grow, keep you on track, but also they're there to encourage you, and they are looking to grow too.
Exactly. And I think that person has to be not only willing to tell you the truth, but be able to package that truth in a way that it's not going to stop you, and it's going to encourage you and enable you to grow, right?
Yes.
Because not everybody wants to hear the truth. Okay, especially if you're going through something like that, what you're describing, right? So that accountability partner then becomes, I think, very important. And I have one that tells me the truth sometimes too often, right? She's staring at me, so But anyway, but I get what you're saying, and I think that by the truth, you can then really get your head around what the adversity is, and then think outside that box, like you mentioned with the restaurants, how you can overcome it.
Yes. The second, so another category is a mastermind group.
Okay.
So with the mastermind group, and this goes all the way back to Andrew Carnegie days, and Napoleon Hill talked about it in his book,
Right.
Think and Grow Rich. And Andrew Carnegie, he credits his mastermind group with his success.
Okay.
So with the mastermind group, that was the second piece that I had implemented, and it came by another NSA colleague invited me to come to a meeting. So there were 3 speakers there, and I didn't know at the end of the meeting that they were going to take a vote whether to let me in or not let me in the group.
Right.
And they did let me in the group.
Okay.
They were a foundation for me.
Okay.
As I was going through the journey and still trying to keep my business going.
Right.
And I'll give you an idea of how hard the journey was in the way of keeping business going. My oncologist, he had said, MJ, you're going to be in this for more than a year. You can get Social Security for this. Go on disability. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm not going on disability. I'm running my business.
Right.
I just had my best year. I'm going to keep my business going. I'm not taking a year off. What would I do with a year off?
Right.
So but the mastermind group, they did help me and my accountability partner put some things into perspective and this is where the hard truth comes in from those who support us and love us. And they finally made me realize, it took me a while, my first job was to get better.
Right.
And then my second job was my business. And the mastermind group and the accountability partner, I credit with helping me maintain my business. During that year, I didn't grow it, but I maintained
Right.
all of my
Right.
clients. And none of my clients knew what I was going through.
Is that right? That's amazing.
No one,
That is
until I
amazing.
finally shared.
Right. That is amazing.
So, in that, Jamie, is where one of the things, as an entrepreneur, business owner, we have to, I say, look upstream. And I like to
Right.
use a car analogy. So I'm not a big car person, but I do have a favorite car, which is a Mustang.
There you go.
Love a Mustang.
There you go.
However, if we had a Mustang here in Pittsburgh, think as a sole car, as
Right.
my only vehicle, well, it would be a little tough in the
Yes, it
winter,
would.
going up a lot of those hills. Sometimes, we have brick behind us. We have brick roads
That's exactly
in this
right.
area. I wouldn't make it to the top of the hill.
Yep.
So when we're thinking about business, we always need to think about being upstream. Looking ahead. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at this because I was not. However, the Mastermind Group helped me look upstream. So,
Okay.
and with it, so going back to the journey, one of the things, I knew that I would, with the intensity of the magic wand, I would lose my hair. And I thought, okay, how am I going to be on camera? How am I going to be on stage? How am I going to talk to
Yeah.
clients? I really needed to think about that. And looking into it and talking to some people, one of the suggestions was to go get, and I call it my fresh hair. Go get fresh hair
Okay.
before you lose it all, so that they can match your color. Being blonde and getting highlights, lots of different
Sure,
colors
sure.
there. So that's what I did. I actually got 2, so that I had a backup before I ever lost the hair. And then to transition from, because you don't lose it all in one day.
Right.
So transition from my natural hair to my fresh hair, I started, fortunately it was wintertime, I started wearing fashionable hats.
Right.
And so when I had to go from the one to the other, that transition,
Okay.
I just kept wearing the hats until
Right.
people were used to
Exactly.
it, and then
Okay.
I could get rid of the hat. So there was never this big from, natural hair.
It wasn't
to-
drastic. There wasn't a drastic change.
Right.
That's awesome.
So looking upstream. So as entrepreneurs, how can we look upstream?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can't always, think about it. Did anybody realize we were going to be in COVID
Right.
going on now 3 years?
Exactly. And we've been crippled by it,
Right.
and we all thought that, we'll have this hangover in 2021, right? And it turns out that didn't happen. It was status quo. It just kept going through. And we're still now into 2022. And, my entrepreneurial journey really hit its stride not long before COVID hit, because I really committed to it at the beginning of 2019. And it was like in January when I picked up my first real client, right? That was going to pay the bills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And because I had dabbled in it up to that point,
Yeah.
so I jumped in with both feet, and this is going to pay the bills, and this is how we're going to make our living. And then all of a sudden, that's in January, and then in May, boom, right? And it's like all of a sudden in what I do for a living, I have to meet with people. I have to talk to people. I have to shake hands. I have to be in their building. I have, and that all stopped. It all
know.
went away. And I was blessed because the couple of clients that I picked up that January, okay, stayed with me. Okay. So that allowed me to again take the time to think about how am I going to get around this if this does drag out for an extended period of time. Right.
Yes.
So, and I had some people that I was blessed to have with me, that mentors that I'd been with for a very long time, and even friends and family who really supported the effort, And so, although my Terry Lynn was not real thrilled about the fact that, when are we going to get paid for this? And, because when you're used to having that every 2 weeks, you get a paycheck
Yes.
this month, and these bills go out, and then 2 weeks later you get this much, and these bills go out. So there was an adjustment for everybody, not just me. And I'm certain that you went through the same thing. It's difficult.
Oh, definitely. As a single woman, yes.
Yeah.
I'm the sole supporter.
Right.
So that brings me into another, lesson to share. Lesson I learned is our clients tell us what business we're in.
Right. You're exactly right. That's a great statement. It's the truth. That's very true.
Sometimes we think we're in one business.
That's exactly right.
And we're really in a different business.
Right.
So that occurred to me when I started my business in 2013. I was doing sales coaching. And I thought, okay, this is my business model. This is what I'm doing. And one day a client said to me, well, MJ, you're not really doing coaching. You're doing training. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, yeah.
Didn't even, light bulb, boom. It didn't even,
I used a method of coaching to train people.
Yeah.
But, I mean, think about this, Jamie. You could ask 100 questions to somebody who is in a sales position but doesn't know how to sell, say a new hire.
Right.
They're not going to know.
That's exactly right.
So I was really into sales training. So that flipped my business model, which was really a great thing. So that was the first time that I had like this big eye-opener. And then a second time was, so now I'm doing sales training and I'm still doing coaching on the side, but more business coaching. And I, through, I cannot believe I can't even think of this university. One of the universities, I don't want to mention the name. So one of their programs, it was for master graduates, students going to get their master's degree. Wow, that took me a while to get that out. So they could work with a business owner on a project. So I was their project, and one of the students had said to me, now all four of them were already in a career. They were getting their master's at night. And the one said to me, well, why are you not speaking? I was like, I don't know why I'm not speaking. So that opened the door to speak at conferences.
Right.
So out of that, and then the last one that switched my business model happened during COVID, when, we all know we had so many things canceled, I wasn't the only one, you weren't the only one, everybody had numerous things canceled. Well, I had 12, in a 3-month period, I had 12 speaking engagements canceled, and there was some training sessions in there too. And one of my clients, who had a manufacturing company, had said to me, MJ, I wish you had digital programs. And I was like, oh my goodness. I said that to myself back in 2016 when I was going through my journey, and here it was 2020, 4 years later, and I still didn't have digital programs. So that was my goal, was to add digital programs, and affordable ones that anybody would be able to buy, purchase, invest, really, because it's an investment.
Exactly.
So, but yes, our clients do tell us what business we're in.
That's exactly
when we listen. Oh, here's another. So one of the things, and being open, we're both on social platforms a lot, and you have a large engagement on social.
And honestly, you get that by putting yourself out there and being open. See, that's the critical point of that. But sometimes I get not scolded, but told that I overshare. But we had a great discussion yesterday, and we can talk about your platform here in a moment. But when we talked yesterday about leadership and building teams and everything like that, again, what was really the overriding theme of that conversation was relationships, right, and personal, and opening yourself up to relationships and the next person you meet, right?
Right, because that next person could be someone like you who, you shook my hand at that conference, which actually, if I can share, that conference was the first time I was on stage going through the journey.
I thought so, yeah.
And my body language, or not even my body, I was shaky. Like my body was shaky from all of the intensity of what I was going through, the treatment, that was poured into my body at the time. And it was, you came over and you had such a smiling face, and you weren't the only one. Brian from the Peters Township Chamber came over, and it was so comforting to know that I was surrounded by people that were supportive and giving, and whether I stumbled on stage or not, I knew that there were people in that audience, I'll get emotional, that were supportive.
Absolutely. And, at that moment, and when you're talking about it, I didn't know that. I didn't know what your journey, with what you were going through, right? It was your message that brought me over to you to introduce myself and shake your hand. Right? I wasn't because, oh man, she's going through this, and I feel, I had no idea that you were going through all that. And when I found that out, I remember, oh my goodness, you were great, and with all of that background that was going on, I didn't know that you didn't convey that to me. You conveyed a message that really resonated with me, right? So that was powerful. It really was. And I remember that. I remember it like it was yesterday because of that.
And that goes, so I do want to touch on reminded me one other lesson about customers.
Okay.
So, but I want to touch upon that. It's looking at adversity. Adversity gives us an opportunity to create something new. There's always, and I know this sounds so crazy that I'm going to say this, but there's always good after bad.
I agree.
It's getting through the bad to get to the good. Back now, it's probably 11 years ago when I left a long-time marriage because of domestic abuse. I left with $500, started a new position because I thought that I could make more money, and I did in this position, but I didn't know anything about building a home, reading blueprints, anything. And I'm like, are you crazy?
Right.
But there was so much good that came after the bad. So anybody who's listening, if they can dig in and just hold on, ride the wave through whatever change they're going through, because there's definitely good on the other side.
Absolutely.
And pull your support team in.
Absolutely. I think that's very important, because a lot of people, they hit that wall and they stop instead of just, you don't have to bust through it. You don't need to put that. You can go around it. You can go over it. There's a lot of ways to get past that, because there is good on the other side. And I'm a big believer of that.
Yes. And think of it as a detour. It's just
Right.
a detour.
Right.
You can get there and find a new detour.
You can course correct at literally any time in your life. You don't have to stay going in a straight line. Life is not a straight line.
No,
it's a squiggly line.
It isn't.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that forced control. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most important kind of lessons, if you want to call it that I've ever learned, is to control the controllables, right? There's everything that goes on around you, literally everything. These lights, the camera, all of these things, the microphones. We can't control whether or not they are going to work the right way, if everything's going to happen the right way. All we can control is how you and I, or communicate and react to each other, okay? So I can control what's going on in here, but none of this is within my control. And I think whenever something happens, if these mics stop working, right? That doesn't mean we're going to stop our conversation.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's how we overcome an adversity in a very simple way, so.
Absolutely. And if the mics don't work, we just reschedule another day.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. So, there's no reason to allow, obviously there are serious things that happen to people, right? There's not much more serious than what you went through, but you didn't stop. You didn't let it defeat you, right? You kept going because you believed, in my mind, the message I got from you is that you believed in what's on the other side of that. And you believed that you were going to come through it.
And there's two other factors with that belief, that faith, but two other factors that pushed me was, one, I wanted to be a role model for my children. They had enough challenges,
right,
within our family that they didn't need me to take this challenge and just be down about it,
right,
or be bitter or let it get to me. I wanted them to see it didn't matter whatever happened to them in life, they could find a way to overcome it. They could find a way to bounce up. And then the other part is working with my clients. I'm always sharing with them, you can do it, motivating them, pushing them, giving them the tools to do it.
Yep.
Now, how could I do that if I couldn't, how can I do that to them or share that with them if I couldn't do it myself?
Exactly. You're exactly right. That is the very definition of leading by example. Okay, not only professionally, but personally as well. And that's an important part of your story, is that while you were going through all of this, okay, with your journey and maintaining your business, you were a mother and a grandmother.
Yes.
Right? So,
Mimi. I'm not a grandmother.
Mimi,
I'm a
sorry,
Mimi.
a mom and a Mimi. So, that adds yet another layer, okay, to all of this. And because that's a full-time job in itself, okay?
Yes.
Mom and Mimi is a full-time gig, because I have one of those at home. I know what that is, right?
You have more than I do, though.
It's well, there's one person I can thank for all that, but that's another story for another day. But anyway, but that is absolutely, it amazes me that you were able to bring all of that around. And again, it goes back to the accountability partner and the power team, but to pull all of that together, right? And really, nobody, and like you said, until you shared your story, nobody knew. You kept that going, and you you walked that path. So even though you had all of that help, you still walked that path yourself.
Yes.
And that is as I said, you're not just a survivor, you're a warrior in every sense of the word.
And my children were awesome. I mean, I can't, and my daughter-in-law was the one who, because I had 6 surgeries, she was the one who had taken care of me after each of them.
Is that right? Okay.
And I don't want to get into details, but she was fabulous. My daughter was with me at the hospital. My son was there. I mean, so I did walk it alone, but I had people beside me the whole way.
Exactly.
I would love to share one little.
Sure. No.
It's funny. At least I think it's funny. Hopefully, you in the audience thinks it's funny. So I am at one of my clients, and I was making photocopies I was working with the sales team, and I was making photocopies for the sales team before I left for the day.
Okay.
And the president of the company, she was over on the other side of the lobby area where everything was. And she said to me, so my back is towards her, and she said to me, MJ, oh my goodness, you look like a different woman. And I turn around and I'm like, oh, thank you. And I turn back and I am chuckling because I have on fresh hair. I lost 20 pounds due to the treatment. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if you only knew.
Oh, jeez, that's amazing.
But I could not turn around because I thought I will bust out laughing.
Yeah.
But that's how much, And then one of her guys, one of her sales professionals, said to me, this is a couple of weeks later, he's like, oh, did you get a haircut? And I just had to share, and I'm like,
oh, jeez,
this is not my real hair. And there was only one person in that office that knew.
Wow.
Her name's Sean, and she's her CPA, African-American woman. And after I finally shared with everyone, she said, oh, I knew, like we know because we wear them.
Yeah, right.
I was like, yes, I know. I didn't even think about it, but yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
So you find humor. In whatever you can.
Yep.
So
I think there's joy to be found in every single day. Okay,
yes.
whether it's gray or whether it's sunny, there's joy to be found there if you know enough about yourself to look for it, right? And you have to know yourself. You have to know what's going on inside so that you can know where to look to find it. Right?
And here's an exercise that I did when I was going through that transition from being married to being single again, which is what I call it. I'd rather say that than the D word.
Right.
So I would write, because it was not a great transition. Dealing with somebody who has an alcohol addiction is not always easy.
Right.
So I taped a piece of paper, blank paper, to my bathroom mirror, and at the end of every day, I started with, what am I thankful for? And then when I got tired of that, what made me smile today? What made me laugh today? And I would have to write 3 things. So it made me more intentional on my day, because I knew I had to write those 3 things at the end of the day. Right. So it makes you more intentional. And now my exercise, so I have a new one that I actually pulled from one of my accountability partners. She's a
Okay.
wellness coach. She
Okay.
talks about burnout. And the first one is, what had you enthused today? What made you enthusiastic today?
Okay.
So that's the first question. The second one is, what drained you today?
Okay.
So then you're aware of, maybe I need to either eliminate or team some time with a certain person or an activity. And the third one is, what did I learn about myself today?
There you go.
Because I think that we don't always take time to learn,
Sure.
to think about what we learned about ourselves in each and every day.
That's a great exercise because the first two questions lead you to the third one.
Yes.
You know, there's a direct link. That's tremendous. That's a great
Yes.
exercise.
So, and over the weekend, so we do have a friend who looks more of the glasses half empty than half full, which I am not sure how that happens being around me all the time. Just kidding. So she called, and I was in the middle of something, and I thought, I need to let that go to voicemail. I need to finish what I'm doing because it was something for business, and I thought I don't need the distraction. I need to finish. So that was what I learned about myself today, that I can't say no
There
to
you
that
go.
phone.
Yeah, there you go.
Doesn't matter, it's the weekend and it's a friend. I can
Right.
say no.
And that's something I need to learn because I don't
hard.
do that. You know, and it really takes you. It is a distraction. It is
It
a
is.
distraction, and it takes you away from your focus, right? And you need. You know, I wrote about this morning in my blog. What we focus on is what grows and expands.
Yes.
Right? But that focus is really difficult at times, and just because of the world we live in, right? And when you talk about intentionality, I had a mentor several years ago, still is, and he suggested, I was never a writer. None of this was ever even remotely in my vision that I would ever communicate the way at this level, right? So he suggested to me, he said, you need to, every morning, you need to keep a journal. And he said, what I want you to do is, the first thing when you get up in the morning, before your feet hit the ground, grab that journal and write down your first thought, okay? It could be one word, it could be a sentence, it could be a page. Whatever's on your mind in the morning is what that's important. That's your first. He said, put it down, close it up, go about your business, and whatever your morning routine is. Right? Then once you've done all that and before you're ready to start your day, open it back up and take a look at it, okay? Close it up, go about your day. But when you come home, before you go to bed at night, okay, open that up and read it. Read the word, read the sentence, the page, whatever it is. And did you do anything in your day in alignment with what that first initial thought was? Okay? And that is how I learned how to be more intentional with my time and with what was in my heart, right? Because that first thought doesn't come from here, it comes from here. And that really helped me. Just a simple little exercise like that.
That's a great exercise, a great exercise. So, and can I just massage your words a little bit there?
You can do whatever you want.
You said something about, I'm not a writer. At that time, you weren't a writer yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very true. And don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of what I've become. My mother, God bless her, my mother's a character. She said, you know, your dad and I never dreamed you were this smart. And I'm like, really? Because my sister is the college graduate. She was incredibly bright, right? And I knew what she meant. You know, we never thought you could do something like this. I said, well, you know, I can always count on her for support, right? Just like, you know, so, but I get that, but I think honestly, who I am now is who I've always been. But as you said, you don't always recognize who you are until you're able to really step back, and maybe something dramatic happens, maybe something tragic happens, but it gives you the kind of what I want to say. It gives you the opportunity to really look inside and go down that path and discover who you really are, right? You're not who everybody tells you are.
Right.
Right? So to separate that, you really got to step back and go internal to find out, because who you are is in here, not out here. Okay. So that's usually where that impetus, that comes from, that inspiration to go and do that, and the courage to go do that. Right. That's why rock bottom is the best thing that ever happened to me. That was the greatest opportunity that I've ever had to build my life and to bounce up, because there was nowhere else left for me to go. And I knew that I didn't want to go back to what I was, right? That person isn't who I was, right? So to get to where I am, to get to this person, to the person that I truly am, I had to bounce up off of rock bottom, okay? And believe me, I hit it with a thud, okay? It wasn't a pretty thing. I mean, it wasn't pretty. But to be able to climb up out of that, to bounce up out of that, that was the biggest and the greatest blessing of my life, was to be able to land there with that thud on rock bottom, so that I could build back then from that. So,
and it's amazing. I mean, you looked at it as an opportunity.
Right.
You looked at it as an opportunity.
Yes.
The other thing is, what I hear is, you found a way to improvise.
yes.
And
Right.
by improvising, and you had to go inside in order to improvise
Right.
outside externally. So,
Right.
I mean, the way that you combined those two, and it does it. So you found a new you after hitting rock bottom.
Right. Right.
I found a new brand after hitting rock bottom.
Sure, exactly. You're exactly right.
And when we think of it that way, it just opens up our world so much brighter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, that thud is what led to this, right? It led to the
Yes.
blog that I write every day. It led to our conversation, you and I meeting even. All of that was tied to that time that I spent there, and able to really reflect on, okay, you know what? All the bad stuff that happened to me, a lot of it was my fault. So it's like, I have to own that, right? So, I can't keep pointing fingers. I have to I played a role in that, right? And that's a tough thing to take.
It
at times.
is.
It really is.
Been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Been there. I say, within the marriage and the addiction and all that, I enabled.
Sure.
I
Sure.
had to admit that I was a part of it, because I enabled. So,
Right.
And then with the bounce up journey, with the cancer journey, whenever I was diagnosed, my business model was not good. I was running 24/7, so I had to streamline it to actually work that had a work-life balance. Also, the way that I was eating was horrendous. I mean, there was just,
Yeah.
I wasn't sleeping. There were so many components to that feed cancer. So
Sure.
I had to look at it. But yes, and it is, as you said, it isn't easy to look inside
Right.
and admit, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
So that is hard. I wanted to share something you had mentioned about what your mom said to you. So I had a CEO say to me once, and this wasn't too long ago, you look smarter than, you are smarter than you look. I was like, okay.
And I'm sure it was meant as a compliment, but a lot of times the delivery is like, you gotta pay.
I know. He said, well, you're just always perky. So I don't associate perky with intelligence. I'm like, okay.
And I think, think of that word. Does that word, I don't say offend you, but does that bother you to be defined as perky? Because I found that,
No.
that has a negative connotation to it. It leads to, a lot of different things. Perky blonde, right? I mean, that's like, but yeah,
I've gotten bubbly too. So
Well,
when I
it's-
think of perky, though, Katie Couric was considered perky.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my goodness, she had a fabulous career.
Absolutely.
Still does.
a respected journalist. I mean, she
Yes.
really was.
Yes. So I thought, but that was funny. I was
But that's
oh
good.
my goodness. So I think of that every so often, but when you were talking about smarter.
Yeah.
So
Yesterday in our conversation, we talked about building successful teams and how the difficulty in blending. It's more than just talent and experience, right? You've got to
Yes.
think about the personal side of things and blending cultures and personalities and things like that. And I think on the coaching side of your business, that would be just as difficult in not only me finding a coach in you, but you also finding coaching clients. So there's so much to that.
Oh, definitely. And that's where we talked about being intentional, going back to on both sides, whether you're hiring someone or whether you are onboarding someone, is being intentional. And I usually have a call first with someone when I'm looking client-wise and decide if we're a good fit.
Okay.
I have a series of questions that I walk through. If I feel, and it can be even just my instinct, a gut feeling.
Your gut feeling, right.
I'll say, I don't believe I'm the right person for you.
Okay.
And I put it on myself rather than say, we're not a right fit. I just say, I don't believe I'm the right fit for you.
Okay.
I won't be able to take you to where you want to go. And it could be because I don't feel comfortable, in it, or I really am not the right fit.
Okay.
And then on the flip side of it, hiring someone, I will say that's one of my mistakes I made, was hiring the wrong coach. I hired a business coach. At the time, I needed someone, and this is when I was going through, the journey. Okay. I didn't have systems in place. Okay. We talked about this yesterday. Actually, one of the listeners identified me as a high I in the DISC program. Yes, I am. So I am great with creating ideas.
Right.
I am not so great when it comes to creating systems. I can implement them.
Sure.
Creating them, I am not always great, which is crazy because I can create them for other people, not myself.
It's different when it's personal, when it's for you.
It is because we're too close to it.
Right.
That's why we need other people. That's why we need a power team. So I hired this person and I didn't just hire this person out of the blue. Several of my colleagues had hired her.
Okay.
She was out of New York. People loved her and had great success with her. She also created lots of ideas.
Okay.
So we were like two peas in a pod,
Yeah.
We were both creating ideas, and I still didn't have my system.
Okay. Yep.
So being intentional, when I hired her, I did not sit down and think about exactly what I needed from a coach.
Sure.
I looked at other people's successes and then hired her because of the success that they had achieved, rather than being intentional on what I needed personally as well as professionally. Because when we hire someone, they know everything about us.
Right.
So, and if we're not sharing intentionally, both aspects about us, then we're not going to get out of it what we really need.
Right.
So, but being intentional on what you do need. So I laid low with, coaching for a while. And then what I do is I had someone, actually a mentor, he walked me through systems that he implemented that would work for me.
Right.
So
how do you differentiate between those two terms, coach and mentor? Because, I've had two mentors who literally have shaped who I am, and they happened organically through what I do for a living, right? I didn't have to go out and hire them or even search for them. They just, we had that connection, right?
Yes.
So how do you differentiate between those two terms? Because a lot of people confuse those.
Definitely. And I've had mentors over the years, which are great. So, and anybody who needs a mentor and they can't find one, SCORE. It's a nonprofit organization, SCORE.org, where they can get a mentor for what they need. And I've used SCORE over the years too. So a mentor is more of an informal relationship. A mentor can give you perspective about the industry, about your business. Sometimes mentors will have you create some goals, but not always. They're there as an advisory, a sounding board. And you're not paying them. A mentor is, you're not paying them.
Right. Okay.
So there's a difference between a coach and a consultant too.
Yes.
So a coach is a formal relationship, and a coach usually will work with you to knock out any past issues you have.
Okay.
They're trying to solve any issues you have. However, they're doing it through the way of asking questions. They're not solving your problem for you. They're asking you questions for you to solve the problem for yourself.
Guiding you to that answer.
Yes. And that's where my aha, whenever I realized when my client told me I was really a trainer. So a consultant, which is really what I am, a consultant is someone, it's a formal, both a coach and a consultant, you are paying for them unless they're doing something pro bono. And they are giving you, they can either teach you a new skill, they can train you on something, they're going to push you to have outcomes.
Okay.
They want, you are going to have a written agreement on whatever outcomes you want. You're deciding it, but it is a formal agreement.
Okay.
Because the goal is to accomplish something.
Right. Right.
There.
I like that because, and that is an intentional relationship,
Yes.
right? Whereas, a mentor-mentee relationship, it really doesn't, it could be by accident, right? You don't know who you're going to meet. And it's that, that next person you meet. That could be the most important mentor of your life. It could be the most important relationship of your life. And you don't even realize it, right? But a coach relationship is an intentional relationship that you choose to enter into.
Yes. And usually it's 3 months. Sometimes you'll re-sign for another 3 months, but it's usually 90 days at a time. So a consultant can go 3 months to a year to 3 years.
Right.
I mean, I've had some clients that I've worked with for, 4 or 5 years.
Sure.
So there's a difference. And you're right, you can find a mentor anywhere. I went to a Pittsburgh Business Times event down at the Duquesne Club. And the speaker, I went up and introduced myself to him. And he says, "Oh, have you met so-and-so?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And he said, "Go over and meet him." So I walked over to this gentleman, introduced myself, said, "The speaker wanted me to introduce myself to you, not sure why, but here I am." So he said, "Do you want to have coffee?" And I said, "Sure." So we had coffee, and we ended up into a mentorship. He ended up mentoring me. And it came not...
That's awesome.
Organically.
Yes.
Because this speaker told me to go introduce myself.
Right. And that's amazing because sometimes people can see, those connections, right? You need to meet this person or this, because they see similarities and they also see gaps that we can't always see. Right. So no matter how often we look inside, there's going to be gaps that we don't see. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's where, and I mentioned to you yesterday, in my entire life, I don't think that I've ever been criticized, right? I look at as people have looked and filled gaps that I didn't see, right? So I take all of that as positive reinforcement because it's all made me better. Whether it's somebody said, "Hey, James, you're a great guy," or "Hey, James, you're a knucklehead," whatever. Either way, okay, I've looked at it and addressed something and grown from that, and it's made me a better person, right?
Yes, and I'm smiling about that because you made me think of something I haven't thought about in a long time. Back when my children were young, before I became a nonfiction writer, I was in a critique group, and critique is, yes, you got critiques.
Yes.
And I had a fiction. I thought I was going to write children's fiction. I had young kids. Why not?
Sure.
So the way this group, it was a paid group, you read your story for 10 minutes and you had a 2-minute critique. So I read my story, and the woman who was the leader, the grand dame of the group, who we paid the money to, after I finished my story, she said, "You would have to be on drugs in order to like that story."
That's a critique there.
That's
definitely a critique.
And I carpooled with another person. The whole way home, I am like, "I can't believe she said, just that whole ranting and raving." However, what it made me do was look at the way that I did write. And I was not flowery in my writing. I did not give descriptions. I was more a nonfiction writer.
Right.
I stopped writing children's fiction and started writing nonfiction about everyday life. And my first article was published in a newspaper, and I got paid for it. And
Nice.
from there, I have more than 2,000 articles that have been published in Parenting Consumer Magazine since then. Although at the time I thought it was a critique, she did me a favor.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
how many books later, if she did not give me that critique, I would not be where I am today in
Right.
the writing industry.
It's amazing how that works.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. Well, listen, MJ, thank you so much for traveling down the Interstate 79 to come to Menneson to meet with us today and spend time with us. It's always wonderful to be with you.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. And I love this banner. So thank you so much. Fabulous coffee shop. So hopefully others come join you and they come get a great cup of coffee.
There you go. Thank you. What a great commercial. And B Graphics, I have to mention them. They created this banner for us from our executive producer, Nick Altman's design. And so, listen, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to whatever comes next for both of us. Cheers.
Cheers.